acting assistant district engineer, and I'm also full-time the portfolio manager. I got involved on another bridge, how we got to here real quick. Walnut Street Bridge over the Susquehanna River in Harrisburg. If you remember 20 years ago, a couple spans on the west side, the ice kicked them out, we lost them. But the east side, from City Island in Harrisburg over to the city side, is a functioning structure. It's an old truss bridge, iron truss bridge as this one is. It has a grid floor, as does Inwood. The city did go in years ago and put in a concrete sidewalk so pedestrians could walk across the bridge, because ladies in heels and things don't do well with open grid decking. It's not the safest thing. Some corrosion of the main members of that structure, Walnut Street I'm talking about, underneath the sidewalk area. And 20 years ago when we had the big flood and we lost out the western spans, that bridge, that side of the bridge, we redid pretty much down to its core, was in great shape. Exactly 20 years later, from 20 years of salt being put on that sidewalk, leaking down underneath there, in 20 years I was amazed at the deterioration we had there. So we're going to have to go back in and fix that, and we will. The bridge is quite safe now, but it needs to be taken care of in the next couple of years. I start to think about other bridges like that. Inwood, of course, comes to mind. And right now there is the evaluation right now to maintain Inwood as a functioning highway bridge across the creek at up to 15-ton weight limit. And I'm thinking, okay, we'll do that. The county would have to own and maintain. But in 20 years from now granted there's no sidewalk, there's open grid, but in 20 years from now, are we going to see, assuming again we fix the bridge up, 20 years from that day forward, are we going to see some of the same deterioration from salt? Now granted there's no sidewalk, but there'll be salt maybe on the road, it'll get tracked across. The Walnut Street Bridge is not subject to vehicular traffic, and the strains and stresses of vehicular traffic Inwood would be. So I start to think about this, and I went back and I looked in some of the files, and I saw that one of the options we had looked at, and I guess for whatever reason decided not to move forward with, was to build a new structure there and across the creek, and alongside, also across the creek, would be a rehabilitated Inwood Bridge that would be a pedestrian bridge. People could walk across that way with a modern steel or concrete structure alongside of it. Okay, that's good. And then I got to thinking, well, it's across the creek, potential flood of some proportions, 500-year storm, 300-year storm, whatever. There's some concerns there. You would still have to inspect that and maintain that across the creek where we have the issues that come with that kind of thing. And I kind of backed off and I said, well, I just came up with this one. What about building a brand new bridge, ultra-modern, single-span bridge across the creek? We would have to take Inwood apart anyway, so let's take Inwood apart. But let's take Inwood and let's put it on the trail. Let's take the stone that's underneath it now that holds it up, take the stone apart. Let's take the bridge apart over the creek, let's ship it off to a fabricator, let the fabricator clean it up, patch the rust where we can, or replace the members that we need to, paint it up, bring it back in pieces on a couple flatbeds, and let's reassemble it. But instead of reassembling it over the creek, we'll assemble it on the trail. And as an added bonus to that, I would suggest we take some of the stone, and when we will build modern concrete abutments to sit it on, but then we'd use the stone veneer again so it would look like something. We put a small pier right in the middle of the bridge to hold the middle of the bridge up. So the bridge doesn't even have to support its own weight. That would significantly reduce the amount of steel and metal we have to replace. It's not even holding itself up anymore. There's not going to be any salt on it. There's no traffic nearby it. There's no chance that someday, if that bridge was open to traffic, there's a good chance and a likely chance at some point in time somebody too wide, too heavy, or too high will try to cross it. We would tend on, if everyone's okay with this, maybe not putting it on the trail exactly, but immediately parallel to the trail, right next to that township road. So trail users would go right down the trail as they normally do now. The bridge would be immediately to one side. If you want to walk across the bridge, fine, you could walk across the bridge. Right now, according to DCNR, the trail is not open to anybody but humans on feet or on pedal. no ATVs, no horses, no snowmobiles. It may not be that way forever. Maybe at some point in time they wanted to allow ATVs or even snowmobiles or even horses. Put the center of the bridge, instead of supporting itself up, it would be on a pier. In theory, with maintenance and periodic painting, there would be no end to how long that bridge could last. I mean, in the end, when we're all done, you're going to own 2 bridges. You were always going to own Inwood, one way or another, the existing metal bridge. You'll still own that bridge, of course. You'll be the proud owner of a brand new, ultra, brand spanking new bridge, single span, across the Swatara Creek, right where it is now. My opinion would be your overall maintenance cost would be less than having to, with a modern bridge over the Swatara Creek and Inwood over here, than having to try to maintain Inwood across the creek, really in perpetuity, because that would be the expectation of replacing that historic bridge across that creek. What we would be willing to do, the Commonwealth would be to take over the project completely out of your hands. We will assume your 5% share. It's 80-15-5 right now. We will assume that 5% share. You could start putting that away and think there's 5% I could use for maintenance down the road. We would take over all the design. We would take over the right-of-way plan preparation. There would be, if there is right-of-way acquisition, we could prepare the plans for you, but the county would have to acquire the right-of-way because it's a county road, a county bridge, or township road, county bridge. We would also hire a contractor to build the new bridge, take down the old bridge for you, put both bridges back up. And when we walk away and we leave, there you go. That bridge is not going to survive on its own much longer. And to get it up to 15 tons, there could be some issue with how much steel we have to replace. I'd like to get it off the creek. I'd like to keep it, but get it off the creek. Put it over on the trail. There we go. It does a couple things. It preserves the bridge. It satisfies those interests. When you turn off Route 72, you've got a pretty good dip to get down. That's going to be gone. The new bridge would be roughly level with 72. The new bridge, even further away from the creek, it takes the bottom of the new bridge and brings it up several more feet higher than it would need to be, which is good. I mean, we know there's, we don't want to have another lead, but someday we may. And
I like your thinking. It's out of the box, and I'm thrilled. I do have 3 questions
Certainly.
that I didn't hear you address, and just so I know going into it what to expect. First of all, at one point we were told that the Inwood Bridge would count as a match for rail trail to get other grants. Can we still do that?
First time I've ever heard that, Commissioner.
Okay.
We can look into it. Moving forward, if we can make a determination of what those maintenance costs are going to be from whenever we do this and cut the ribbons as it, I think there might be a better chance of using those your longer term maintenance costs that you're going to be dealing with as a match for what I explained to DCNR was what they should take away from our discussion was when this is all said and done, again, we cut the ribbon and we leave to move on to other projects. There's going to be an occupation of their property, and by the occupation I mean your bridge is going to be sitting on their property. It's going to take up about 25 feet by a couple hundred feet, really insignificant. Okay? They will not have any money in this either during the event or after the event. It's free to them. The the occupancy agreement will not hold them responsible down the road for for money or anything. So what I told them is take that away. Yeah, we'll have some trees cut down. We talked a bit about that, which we'd have to anyway because the crane is going to sit there. Some of that vegetation, trees will have to go. We can replant trees. But walking away from there, they have another historical asset there. The bridge was built there, it'll be there, with really no skin in the game, so to speak. And DEP is what we're more concerned about, not DCNR. DEP, because we're locating another structure potentially in a floodplain, and we have to work through that. I don't think that's insurmountable, certainly, but I would be more concerned at this point in time about addressing DEP because they have this issue.
Okay, right now, this is the only bridge that did not flood in Tropical Storm Lee, and the plan, as I recall, was to raise it 1 foot higher to allow debris to flow underneath more freely. So would both bridges meet that criteria in the end?
The new bridge will be higher and will be higher even than we expected before. So
Okay.
it would take something more than Lee to get up there.
Right off the township road, turn 90 degrees, it's almost, the bottom of that, the current bridge is almost going to be at elevation of 72. If you're going to,
McCormick Taylor is Penn DOT's managing consultant on this right now.
Yeah.
But
What-
they'll go by the wayside
They'll go by
because
the
you're
because
gonna run it.
John is our man here.
Okay, and what happens then with how long do you still need?
Okay, let's talk about what I'd like to do. I would like to continue with the current project team, which is McCormick Taylor and Mark Wilson and his folks, a little bit further through what I call the formal environmental clearance process. And that is, we've taken care of any environmental type issues, deep floodplain issues, historic structure, historic issues with the museum commission. We'll get through all that, and all that's done. That culminates in a document, and basically we get approval, environmental approval, that we've addressed all those issues. It's signed off by our central office, the Federal Highway Administration, and basically that document says, okay, from an environmental preliminary engineering standpoint, you did everything you have to. Okay, done. We know where the bridge is going to go. We know all that. What I propose to do, and the feds are okay with this, I propose that we move in immediately, take the bridge down. We haven't even started the new final design of the bridge yet. I want that bridge out of there. It's not safe there. Penn DOT contract for a contractor to come in, disassemble the bridge, get it out of there, get it to a fabricator, where we could determine what metal we can, what we can do there. We're sandblasting, painting, getting all that done. We would then continue with final design of the new ultra-modern structure there. When we go to bid that contract, but part of that contract has him then driving to the fabricators, wherever this, it's steel fabricator we do, I'd say maybe high steel on those, would be driving to that location, picking up the structure, driving it back to the site, and when the new bridge is done, we wouldn't open the road yet. When the new bridge is done, he would then assemble the old Inwood Iron Bridge on the abutments and everything he built as part of his overall job.
So if you're keeping the team, if your idea is to keep that team together up until
The approved environmental document, yeah.
Okay.
But there has to be something that binds us together into this plan. There will be an agreement that when we go to construction, we can't construct the project, the Commonwealth can't, unless it's a state route. So there will be an agreement where the township now and the county, I think both, this is new, we haven't done one yet. I don't think anywhere in the state. There would have to be perhaps a multiple party agreement signed, the Commonwealth, I'm guessing Union Township, and the county, where the Commonwealth would assume temporary full legal ownership of that little piece of township road and the bridge, and it would become SR whatever. And then upon completion of the project and everything's been done, there would be, it would basically be handed back to Union Township, the highway, and the bridge to the county. Which is fine, but there's a highway on both sides of the bridge. And I believe what I was told is we would basically have to work out a point, wherever that point would be on a road, where we have no reason to have to do anything anymore, and that's where we would draw the line. Now, on the 72 side, clearly, it's 72. Okay. On the other side, it would be back up the two legs, not very far.
One of the things too is if we would use the original Inwood Bridge, let's just say we did get it up to 15 tons, it was rehabbed, and we keep it. Once that's done, if there's any issues that happen in the future, I think from an eligibility standpoint, the feds could say, you fixed it. It's your, if there's problems now, it's on you guys. Whereas in this case, you're preserving the historic nature, but you're getting a bridge that if the county takes care of it, it will last you a very long time, and you should not have any issues and flooding. So I mean, when you really add up all the cost and what could come down the road if you go a different avenue could be actually more than, what we're spending to try to wrap this up.
I was wondering, could you give me like a timeline, start this construction in 2018 and finish it in 2019, anything like that?
I would like to think that a year from now, we're past the buy-in stage, everyone's buy-in, and I would like to think we could be close to that environment. I would say, I would really like to say that's done by the end of next year, because I'm anticipating along the way there'll be some issues, like, so and so. By the way, while that's going on, I would advertise for a new engineering firm, so there's no gap. It takes me 8 months to bring a firm on board and execute an agreement. I would start that now, so we're ready to go whenever that time is.
2020.
We go to construction 2020. And again, the bridge, as soon as we can get the bridge out of there, the old bridge, I'd like to get it out.
And the length of time it takes to construct once you start.
So probably a year.
A whole construction.
We've
So
been in
2021, we could probably drive across.
Well, my retirement date's 2020, so sure, 2020.
Okay. Well, I guess I was kind of guilty as being one of the last ones to drive across that bridge. I say one because I'm sure Karen did too, but we were restoring the Bordner cabin. I was literally hauling trailer loads of shingles across the bridge when Mr. Wilson came in and said, whoa, you can't do this anymore. This bridge is going to collapse. So I'm just so thankful because there were a lot of people using it, perhaps undocumented, but a lot of people using it then, and with everything that's going to be happening out around Monroe Valley, it's going to get even more use. So thank you for being so innovative in your approach to this.
It just somebody different comes along, you have an opportunity to look at it a little bit differently. That's nothing anybody else would have done.
Do you need any action from us to accept what you're proposing?
I
or
don't,
just-
I don't believe, Mr. Commissioner.
Just the concept of it?
I don't believe we do. We're fine here. What, because this is the first time we've ever done this again in the state, we're making some of this up as we go, how to do, that's not a good way to say it, but, how we work through with the agreement about transferring ownership of resident.
Okay.
The issue's gonna be typically the reimbursement agreement we have now with you for this bridge is very detailed in who does what, who does why, and everything else. And we do have a binding agreement, which would become null and void once we assume control. Might we come back to you at some point in time and say, hey, we need to have a little MOA or MOU that says, we'll do this, we'll do that, you do this, and in the end you'll take it over? Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to, as we get a little further into this, we'll have to see.
We talk about the flooding, and, we've had that, and we've been an island for some times, but the other thing I worry about is the fire. If we have a fire in the park, or in our little neighborhood, or if it's up there at Monroe Valley, there's no way to get the emergency equipment over to us, because you can't come in from Monroe Valley. The park closed their road, so now we have one way in and out.
And that
And that
again,
can flood.
That's just not desirable.
Does the museum commission people understand the safety for all of us over here? They're worried about historical things. I like history, so I want to save whatever we can. But, this has taken so long, we keep having more things that have to be looked at, and they say, well, check this, that, and the other thing. It's taken long enough. I think they should allow you now to go ahead.
I think they will.
Amen.
No, I think they will, because what we're doing now is just, in my mind, from a historical perspective, very, very hard to find fault with. If that's all you're focused on is just preserving the bridge, it's pretty hard to find fault with what we're going to do.
The new replacement bridge, what capacity were you proposing for that? The same 15 tons?
Well, no. Maximum, typically a bridge is what we call maximum loading. They're not posted, it's a brand new bridge. Typically it's 40 tons.
So that resolves the...
40.
Okay. And you said it's you called it a one single span bridge.
The current bridge there, there's no pier in the middle, it goes all the way across. The new bridge will go all the way across too. There won't be a pier in the middle of the creek. There'll be one span. There won't be a pier coming up from the center of the creek.
One span, okay, I'm confusing
No.
span with lanes,
No.
but it would be a two-lane
two-lane
Bridge.
bridge with shoulders and one, there won't be anything in the middle of the creek after.